All right, good morning. My name is Stephen at the Spokane National Weather Service office, and we also have Kayla at the Seattle NWS office doing the fire weather briefing for today, August 20th. And just as a reminder, this meeting is being recorded, and by joining and participating in the session, consent is being given to the recording. Please keep your cameras off per NOAA Privacy Act statements. Our satellite image for today, we have a cold front that is pushing through. It has just pushed across the Cascades and is starting to move its way into eastern Washington right now. And that is going to increase winds a little bit through the day across eastern Washington into North Idaho. We also have this developing low pressure system in the Gulf of Alaska. And as that front pushes through today, we will see that deepening and building a ridge over the region with temperatures getting quite a bit warmer over the region for an extended period of time. Looking a little bit closer at our satellites, you can see the higher clouds coming across the Cascades into eastern Washington. This is where the front is approximately, and that will be sliding through, as I mentioned, through the day today. And you can see quite a bit of low clouds here on the west side with that marine layer. Okay, Kayla, do you want to go ahead and start with the west side here in the matrix?
Yeah, Stephen, thank you so much. So today, we have some clouds across the area, be a little bit cooler. So today we're not really seeing too much, but like you alluded to earlier, we're going to have a warmer and drier trend starting throughout the rest of the week into early next week tomorrow. So Thursday, it looks like warmer, but we're really going to key in on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We're going to see some hot and dry conditions, especially in our South Cascades and our South Sound areas. We're not going to really see a lot of good relative humidity recoveries there. So we're going to keep an eye on that, especially if, for those areas, elevated fire weather conditions. And then, Monday and Tuesday, we're still going to remain warm and dry. So again, we're going to keep, elevated conditions there just because we are entering in kind of a warm and dry period. But again, I think Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we're going to have some hot and dry conditions there. So we're going to keep our eyes on there. Thanks, Steve.
Okay, thank you, Kayla. And east of the Cascade Crest across eastern Washington, North Idaho, today we are looking at dry and breezy conditions, elevated fire weather conditions with that front. Thursday, the winds will be weaker. And then Friday, I do see more winds than what we had been looking at the last couple of days. I wouldn't be surprised if we actually put some breezy winds in here and show this as an elevated fire weather day for both eastern Washington and North Idaho. And then these winds, instead of out of the west, they would be coming out of the north or east and northeast across our area here. And this front that's coming through for today is going to bring a pretty good amount of dry air into us. And even though we will be warming up, it won't be our hottest temperatures here. That dry air coming in behind the front is going to really result in a much lower relative humidities for the afternoon on Friday. The winds won't be still a little breezy on Saturday, but not as much as Friday, but kind of going into a hot and dry period, and then starting to see an increase in our instability across eastern Washington and North Idaho. So putting hot, dry, and unstable as we get into the Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday timeframe over on this side here. So for the winds and relative humidities today for elevated fire weather conditions, these are the zones that we are looking at. We'll see the winds picking up here in the late morning, afternoon hours once that inversion starts to break around 10 o'clock. And relative humidity is getting down into the upper teens to low 20%. Sustained winds across the basin, 8 to 12 miles an hour, seeing some gusts 16 to 20. The winds through the Cascade Gaps will pick up more so in the late afternoon hours after about 1500, 1600 hours. The Kitsap Valley is already seeing some fairly gusty winds there. That'll decrease a little bit as we get a little bit more of that up valley component kicking in with the heating of the day, but then increasing again as we get into the evening hours. So I do anticipate we'll see some gusts there, and we're already seeing that with gusts up to around 30 miles per hour in the Kitsap Valley. So there could be an hour or two where we start to hit some red flag conditions, but for the most part, this looks like an elevated fire weather day rather than a critical day. A 6 to 10 day outlook, I just wanted to touch on as we get into the end of August, with that extended heat that we're going to see. You can see there's a really good signal for above average temperatures and precipitation below average, not really seeing a good signal for getting showers or thunderstorms into here. And then just to kind of drive this home point even further for extreme heat outlook. This is from the Climate Prediction Center, but as we get through August 27th and 28th, so next week, at least for eastern Washington into North Idaho, there's a moderate risk of seeing some above average temperatures and well above average, where could see just an extended period of heat and better possibility for heat-related type illnesses occurring because of the duration of the heat. And this goes into the 8 to 14 day outlook. So a little bit further into the end of August, even into early September, still above average, more likely for temperatures. But then the other thing that's interesting is we start to see a bit more of above average for precipitation. And there is starting to be some good signals that with that low that I was showing in the Gulf of Alaska and getting a bit closer by this time at the end of August and getting into more southerly flow and bringing up some moisture into our area that could produce some thunderstorms, and something we'll have to watch out for as we go into the end of the month. Okay, so moving along here for our weather, just to get a little bit more specifics, starting with our high temperatures for today. In the valleys west of the Cascades, looking at looks like 70s, and then as you cross the Cascade Mountains into eastern Washington, we're looking at highs into the mid 80s, even some upper 80s here for some of our warmer spots. Into the northern panhandle, looking at low to mid 80s for our highs. Relative humidities are going to be a bit drier than what we've seen over the past few days and starting to get into the teens. So the winds not quite meeting criteria for critical conditions across the basin, but will be dry enough, and then into the Cascade Gaps where the winds would be kind of picking up. The RH is not quite dry enough. So not quite overlapping today for seeing red flag conditions, but it will be close with some dry and breezy conditions. And just to kind of finish that off with the winds, this is what we're looking at for wind speeds and directions. So westerly winds by the afternoon in that 8 to 12 kind of mile per hour range, and a little bit breezier through the Kittitas Valley, and then gusts generally up around 20 for peak gusts. Like I said, near the Cascade Gaps, we'll see gusts a bit stronger there. Okay, moving on to tomorrow, and just starting with the winds. What I want to highlight here for tomorrow is that the winds will be shifting. We will be seeing some northerly winds coming down the Okanagan Valley, and then also start to see a shift in the winds more out of the north down to Purcell Trench, North Idaho as well. And this is the wind gusts here. So the gusts up to around 20 down the Okanagan Valley, that would be more in the early part of the day, and then kind of decreasing as we go into the afternoon. And with those relative humidities, they will be dry, but the winds won't be as breezy as those relative humidities start to get to their minimums into the teens. So not looking at a combination of the winds and low relative humidity. It'll be breezy, and then the winds will be relaxing a little bit as we get drier for tomorrow. I also wanted to point out the maximum relative humidities as you go into Friday morning. With that drier coming in, I do expect that in the Cascades, for those, especially the mid elevations and upper elevations, ridge tops, that the recoveries will be poor, or at least fair to poor. And that will be the same as we go into Saturday morning too. And you can see those recoveries are going to be even worse and expanding a bit further across the state of Washington. And then the winds will be continuing out of the north and northeast. We'll see a bit more northeast winds in North Idaho, sustained 6 to 9, see some gusts potentially up around 15 miles an hour. down the Purcell Trench, potentially a little bit more, like up to 18 miles per hour, and a little bit gusty across the basin as well. So that's why I said with the matrix on Friday, this looks like it could be another day where it might be a bit dry and breezy. We'll have to take a closer look at today. Okay, moving on to the trends, we'll go ahead and start over on the west side and go ahead and take it away there, Kayla.
Thanks. Yeah, so looking at Ohana Prakash here, when I said it earlier, looking at Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you can see the relative humidities get quite low, and we're really not having really good relative humidity recoveries, during the daytime there. So those are going to be our prime days, especially in the South Cascades and in our Cascades in general, of having low relative humidities and not really having good recoveries throughout the day. As we get later on in the week, like I said, Monday and Tuesday is still warm and dry, and they, get up a little bit in the mid 20s there, and a little better recoveries per se. But again, it's still having that warm and dry conditions there. So again, we're going to continue to look at the elevated fire weather conditions, especially Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but throughout the remainder of the week there, just because we do have those hot and dry conditions there. Thanks, Steve.
Okay, thank you, Kayla. Okay, moving on a bit further east, wanted to select Othello for today and point out that we will see westerly winds there sustained 10 to 12, and a little bit higher gust there as well. Relative humidities get down to the lower 20%, and then the trend towards much warmer temperatures as we go into the weekends. And at this site, we could be 100 degrees as we get into Saturday, and quite low relative humidities and poor recoveries. Also, just want to mention that the winds, like I have said already, they'll be a bit breezy Friday and Saturday, also continuing a bit breezy, but not as much as Friday. And then over to North Idaho, looking at the hoodoo raws. Not as breezy today, but still seeing, especially on those exposed ridges, some westerly winds there, and warming, drying trend into the weekend, and then the wind switching northeast across North Idaho as we get into Friday and continue through Saturday, with Friday looking like it's going to be the breezier day. Okay, and that concludes the briefing for today. Go ahead and end the recording here.